Hello everyone, welcome back to Durbanites FPL Game Week 23 review and Game Week 24 preview. This is a tough week for Tottenham Hotspur. They have a match against Manchester City, which traditionally they have been managing to win. However, if they lose this week, it will be a huge blow to their city rivals Arsenal. And a lot of fans are actually debating whether it's worthwhile for them to lose this one just so that they can damage Arsenal's chances of grabbing that title. Now, let's see what dilemmas we have, starting with the table and looking at where we are. Look at that, RoboClub still at the top after a terrible week for most of our managers, guys. Some of them exceeding, but most of them really in trouble. Very tough week. You can see at the lower end of the table, though, a couple of 50s, high 50s, and 60s as well. So it looks like the race is heating up in this latter part of the season. As you can see, a few drops, a few pickups as well. Alu Boys for a long time being in the second and third position, now down to fifth. Myself down to fourth. Are you sure? Zax is now sitting really pretty up at second, trying to make that title challenge as well as she gets super close, under 100 points away from RoboClub, still leading at the top. One of our champs is also very close, within 10 points of jumping into the first page. Let's see how that's going to work out in this week. Now, looking at the player selections over the week, still just two staples, Erling Haaland and Gabriel Magalhaes, owned by more than half the managers in our league. But there are many players that are just hovering on the brink of that number, almost there, maybe owned by 50% of the managers so far. But in this game week, these are the differentiators. Emi Martinez doing excellently well, owned just by one manager, 10 points for him this week. Brian Mboma with his goals as well, ending up with double figures and owned by just one manager. Dominic Soboslai owned by two, as is João Pedro, both of them scoring double pointed returns this week. Harry Wilson and Jared Bowen also doing well, owned by four managers this week, but not all of them having the confidence to play this duo in the game week. And what does that mean for the hits and misses? As you can see, defensively, quite a few performances there. Two iron walls from Ami and Umair doing really well. And on the side of the stone wall, Zax, Azra, Fatih, Mobs, Mohammed Amin, and Ansu all picking up more than 20 points in defense. Really good performances there. But look at the hot benches. 3 hot benches there for Fatih, Ami, and Umair, and a flaming bench for me, with Harry Wilson and Jared Bowen sitting there with Mark Dubravka as well, and Elliot Anderson, more than 30 points on the bench, which I really could have used this game. No crying over spilt milk, guys. It's time for us to jump into what it would have looked like. Emi Martinez for sure taking the number 1 jersey, putting Gianluigi Donnarumma on the bench. Back 3 of Anderson, Dogu, and Virgil van Dijk, putting Richards and Van de Ven on the bench. A strong midfield this week. Dominic Soboslai getting the captain's armband for his return of 13 points. Cunha, Stash, Wilson, and Mbumo finishing that midfield. And up front, João Pedro and Bowen sharing the spoils there with Ollie Watkins getting the bench. And that team would have got you 122 points with a very strong bench boost of 30 points. So look at that, guys, 152 for that team with a bench boost. Now, when we look at that, it's time for us to now look at what's happening the latest in the transfer market, guys. So with 1 day left to go before the January transfer window closes, let's look at where the movements are. So aside from all the movements that have happened as well, Raheem Sterling has been released by Chelsea, so they've come to an agreement that he will leave the club, not currently signing for a new club, so waiting to see where he might go with his career and whether he might choose to move to one of the teams where he will get more playing time. When it comes to the transfers in, there are a few things happening here as well. So Douglas Luiz is joining Aston Villa again. So guys, you remember he was on loan at Nottingham Forest from Juventus. Juventus have recalled that loan and now loaned him out to Aston Villa. So Douglas Luiz returning to his old stomping ground. And Aston Villa have a few injuries that we'll talk about, so you might see him play his best there. Tammy Abraham making a return to the Premier League as well. For those that don't remember, he used to be at Chelsea and fairly good scoring rate. Has been playing for Besiktas in the Turkish league and scoring quite regularly as well. Aston Villa have made a good signing for him, just at 20 million, a steal for an English striker at this moment in time. With Ollie Watkins' injury, it does give Tammy Abrams a chance to jump in, start putting goals in the back of the net as Aston Villa look to compete in Europe and in the Premier League. And Ryan joining from Vasco da Gama also to Bournemouth to try and bolster that midfield. In terms of interleague moves, quite a few things happening as well. So James Ward-Prowse moving from West Ham to Burnley. As you know, Ward-Prowse falling out of favour at West Ham, unfortunately. Now moving to Burnley as they try and pick up the points that they needed to try and get out of that relegation zone. I mean, they can smell it. There's something happening around there. Guys, James Ward-Prowse is an excellent pick. He is a dead ball maniac. For those that don't remember, really, really effective in dead ball situations. And at Burnley, he's probably guaranteed to be on that starting lineup, and they will try and give him as many chances as possible to swing in those corners and take those free kicks on the edge of the penalty box to try and get them the points that they need. If you're looking for a good differentiator, look at James Ward-Prowse. Oscar Bob also making a move from Manchester City to Fulham, looking for more playing minutes as well at Manchester City with their overpowered squad. He does not get the play time that he needs. Did spend some time out injured as well, but now looking to make sure that he's a first name on the sheet. And Adama Traore making the move from Fulham to West Ham. Again, the speedy winger moved from Wolves to Fulham looking for the game, but actually has been out of favour, not really getting the returns that I expected, and so now making a move to West Ham. So West Ham also building a fairly good squad to start competing. So look at those moves at the bottom as well. West Ham, Burnley, guys that are looking to actually start moving in the league. So with that, let's look at the matchups for this week, guys. When we look at it, the ones that we really want to call out to avoid Brentford going into a really tricky patch currently at this moment in time. Villa, Newcastle, and Arsenal, the next three, it's going to be very tough for them. They can still get points out of these teams. Not any of them have a very solid defense, except maybe Arsenal if you want to go that way. But the truth of the matter is, there are points available for an FPL manager up for grabs at this moment in time. Then you're looking at Everton. Everton with their strong defense, definitely one that you want to watch out for. But if you can see here, you have Brighton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Manchester United, tough teams to come up against. Let's see if they can pick up at least DEFCON here. Wouldn't encourage you to double up on these guys, but maybe think about how you would strategically use them. Then you're looking at Liverpool. Again, Liverpool in a bit of a quandary at this moment in time. Ibrahima Konate is back from the funeral of his father, unfortunately. So, but they still have trouble at the back. Jeremy Frimpong is injured again, so that's going to be an issue for them. And of course, they're still missing Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz and Milos Kerkez. Not really firing. They are coming to the party kind of, but not really where they expect them to be. They have Newcastle and City back to back. That's quite tough. Then going on to Sunderland before taking on maybe some other winnable games. Now Liverpool are going to be pushing hard, or they're going to be in serious trouble, having dropped out of the Champions League spots in last week's matchups, and under some severe pressure to get winning in the league. Then looking at Newcastle United, very similar taking on Liverpool this week. They have some crisis at the back, so now that Dan Burn is back, hopefully that should be good. But Tino Livramento still out, as is Fabian Schär. So look at Kieran Trippier maybe making a return there as well. So just watch for that as well. And they have some tough games coming up in that lineup, as you can see. Spurs are the other ones, guys. So Spurs did well in the Champions League to finish off in the top 4, which was amazing, considering they are languishing in the 14th position in the Premier League, with a lot of teams below them starting to show some good form. They have a tough run of fixtures coming up with Manchester City at home, then Manchester United, then Newcastle, and then Arsenal. So very, very tough games. Then facing a Fulham and Crystal Palace team who again can be quite surprising before taking on Liverpool. So there's a very tough run of fixtures, and again with the teams like West Ham and Burnley starting to bolster, it's not out of the realm of expectation that Spurs could actually be pulled into a relegation battle. But with all that negative talk, let's swing it positive. Arsenal are definitely the ones to beat, guys. Looking at their fixtures coming up, some tricky fixtures there with London derbies against Spurs and Chelsea, but at the same time they have some winnable fixtures if they can get over this hurdle at Leeds at Elland Road. Very, very tough one. This Arsenal team has been shaken a bit, even though they have been doing fantastically in Europe. Just 2 points from the last 3 Premier League games and a very tough fixture at Leeds. And if things don't go according to plan this week, they could very well have Manchester City and Aston Villa breathing down their necks. Now you've got Bournemouth next. We've got a good run of fixtures coming up. Unfortunately for them, Marcus Tavernier is still out. They have brought in some pacey players as well, but look at them. Evan Nielsen doing really well up front, and Krupi Jr. might be a good cheap pick if you're looking for a differentiator who seems to be doing really well. Brighton as well, pretty good fixtures to look at. Pascal Gross is back. He's already started to score points, guys. We've also got Van Heck and De Keper in the background that you want to look at. There are a few fans of Danny Welbeck in the Durbanites League, so maybe that's where you want to look. Chelsea have the best run of games over the next 4 weeks, although their form might not really pay off. Guys, Liam Rosenior is doing really well. He's getting the points on the board. Chelsea are just outside the Champions League spots at this moment in time, with West Ham, Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley. So 4 teams that are in the bottom 5 in the league. So a chance for them to really score some big points here. The trick with the FPL managers is trying to figure out the rotation in the Chelsea squad. João Pedro's done really well scoring in his last 2 games, but he did play against Napoli in the Champions League, and the chances of him playing 90 minutes 3 games in a row, very odd. Now the question is, who comes in? Is it Liam Delap that's going to come in, or do they go a different way? Right now, the 3 players from Chelsea that we kind of see cemented in there are Enzo Fernandez, Trevor Chalobah, and Robert Sanchez. But that may be the triple up that you want to do on Chelsea. If you want to go another way, of course, it's always open to you. Then look at Manchester United. Again, based on the current run of form, guys, 6 points from their last 2 games against the top 2 teams in the league. They've got Fulham this week at home at Old Trafford before taking on Spurs at Old Trafford and then going to West Ham. Now, chances are they can still pull figures from here. Bruno Fernandes playing in a more familiar role to him and already starting to contribute. Brian Mbeumo playing up front as a makeshift striker, and he is not letting anyone down. Again, there might be a need for rotation in the squad, but at this moment in time, they seem really strong under Michael Carrick, and a chance for you to start maybe banking on a few of those players. So with that, let's get into the call-outs over the players. So no issues with the goalkeepers this week. So the picks there, Raya from Arsenal, and of course Sanchez from Chelsea. For the defenders, Chelsea still missing Levi Colwill, but Newcastle, as I said, Tino Livramento, Fabian Schär, both of them out. Looking at Diaz from Manchester City, Guardiola also out for Man City. They have a bit of issues there, but they have, of course, now Mark Gahey in deputizing. Seems that he's doing really well, and I assume we'll see a lot more of Nathan Ake in that space. Frimpong, as we said, is out also for Liverpool, possibly 2 to 3 weeks before he makes a return. Van de Ven had a bit of a knock in that European encounter in midweek, and he is a bit doubtful whether he will start. Pedro Porro is definitely out from the Spurs lineup. And Patrick Dorgu, the guy that many have transferred in and has had great returns over the last 3 weeks, is unfortunately out for about 8 to 10 weeks, which might see him only coming back very late in the season. Definitely a blow for Manchester United and for the FPL managers that invested in him. But there's no point in holding on to him in the short term, guys. He's definitely out for a longer term. Our picks on the defensive side, though, Senesi from Bournemouth, who's doing really well, and they have some good fixtures as we discussed. Timber and Gabriel is definitely the double up in the Arsenal defense, if that's where you're looking to go. Saliba is an outside pick, depending. He does get rotated, though, for Hincapié and Calafiori, so I think Gabriel is probably the safest bet from that centre-back pairing. Then Matty Cash at Aston Villa is definitely able to get clean sheets and the odd assist or goal, so definitely one to look at. Tarkowski at Aston Villa is the out and out standard defender. By the way, guys, Michael Keane is back from suspension. However, Jared Brandwaite is also back on the field. He is now eligible to play and feeling healthy, although his minutes might get measured. Just to remind you why he's so dangerous, he is an extremely fast wingback. Very crucial. He can score, he can assist. He's really quick on the wing. So Michael Keane might start losing minutes to him. Question of whether you want to invest in him just yet is difficult. I mean, he's just come back from a very long injury, so for me, I'm holding out at this moment in time. Sunderland have it tough at this moment in time. They've not had a very good run of wins, but Mukiele and Arteta are really good in terms of getting goals, assists, defcons. So this week, a pretty good fixture for them, a chance for you to actually score. So I would recommend one or both of them if you have them. Pretty good price defender for that return. And of course, the man, Trevor Chalobah, for those that have hung on to him, he's been a super consistent performer for Chelsea in the top 5 defenders for FPL this year, so definitely one that you want to look at. And then that brings us to the midfield. So for the midfield, Spurs definitely missing a lot of attacking options there, guys. Madison, Kulusevski, and Kudus out. So they're really relying on Javi Simons to pick up the pace there. Jeremy Doku is out for Manchester City for a little bit, so you won't see him on the wing and not in the future, but you might see Antoine Semenyo then picking up that slack. Then Marcus Tavernier out for Bournemouth, as we discussed. Jack Grealish out for Everton. Joe Linton is now out for Newcastle, but Bruno Guimaraes is back, so hopefully that's a good switch out for them. Granit Xhaka from Sunderland is out now. For guys, maybe you haven't had him on your team, maybe you don't know this player, but Granit Xhaka is a rock in that midfield of Sunderland. Definitely a guy that can break up play from as a defensive set and then also as an offensive threat, really thread that pass. Now with him missing, I think Sunderland are definitely weaker, and there's a chance here that they can get overrun in the next few weeks when you're looking at matchups. Then you've got John McGinn for Aston Villa and Yuri Tielemans, both out. But with that, Douglas Luiz is back at Aston Villa, so look at him to fill that defensive midfielder role and holding. And then Morgan Rogers, always good for the creative side. Semenyo, we discussed, is probably the most informed player at Manchester City at this moment in time. Definitely a better pick than Phil Foden. Bruno Guimaraes is back at Newcastle. Rice and Saka at Arsenal are probably the best route to points from that midfield. And then you've got Dominic Szoboszlai and Florian Wirtz from Liverpool. If anyone's going to create, it's going to be these guys. Pascal Gross at Brighton and Hove Albion, definitely one of my favorites. Cole Palmer and Enzo Fernandez, as well as Alejandro Garnacho at Chelsea. Again, guys, we cannot ignore Chelsea because of the runs of games coming up. Really, really good chance for you and for them to get a lot of points. But Cole Palmer is still managing an injury. They are still managing his minutes. You're looking at 60, maybe 65 minutes if I hear some of the pundits talking. But don't forget, it could also be 59 minutes. So you are really taking a chance here. But he's still on pens. He's still good on the free kicks. It's up to you whether you want to put that 10.4 million into that player and maybe not get the returns, or maybe go for an Enzo who doesn't return as well, but is probably going to get a lot more minutes over these weeks. Ward-Prowse at Burnley is my call out for a great differentiator. Burnley don't have the bad fixtures, and again, don't forget, we're not really counting on whether Burnley win or lose. We're counting on them getting at least a few free kicks, at least a few corners that James Ward-Prowse can be absolutely influential in. So again, for those looking at differentiators, he's the man that I would recommend. And then, of course, the Manchester United trio of Mbeumo, Cunha, and Fernandes. Depending on what your budget allows, you can go for Fernandes at the top end of the market. You can go for Cunha somewhere in the middle, or Mbeumo is probably the cheapest of the trio. But all three of them are definitely looking good for points, especially with the games to come and the form that they currently show. And that brings us, guys, to the end. Looking at the forwards, still a lot of injuries. Some of them out for the entire season. I mean, Richarlison's injured now for Spurs. Woods probably not coming back this season. Muniz is starting to make his recovery for Fulham. Isak is out still for another month at least at Liverpool. Nketiah struggling at Crystal Palace, and with Mateta now transfer blocked, so Mateta is pushing for a move to AC Milan in the January window. As a result, he's not available for selection for this game week. So he's not at Crystal Palace, will not play, and we still have to see whether that move confirmed tomorrow. Nketiah is not in the condition to play as yet, so Crystal Palace are actually looking at bringing in Jorgen Strand Larsen from Wolves, but that deal is also not cleared as yet. Ollie Watkins picked up a bit of a hamstring strain while playing in the cold in the midweek in the European match, but Aston Villa have brought in Tammy Abraham, who's an on-form striker that has just joined from the Turkish league. So possibly look at him starting this week. He will definitely enjoy playing for Unai Emery, and maybe Ollie Watkins being given a chance to rest up so that he'll be ready for the rest of the season. So let's go to the picks where Tammy Abraham does feature, but Erling Haaland is there against Spurs this week. No Mickey van de Ven, so Spurs definitely taking a knock. No Pedro Porro as well. They're going to have to think carefully about how they structure their defense. And Erling Haaland can be merciless, although he has been blanking in the last few weeks. Iga Thiago at Brentford is definitely one to keep. Some tricky matches coming up, guys, but my recommendation, the recommendation of many FPL, let's say, fundies, is not to sell Ego Thiago at this moment in time, because when game week 28 rolls around, he's going to have a chance to fantastically impact your team, because he has a lot of fixtures there where he could score many, many goals. For Chelsea, it's really up to you how you look at Liam Delap and João Pedro and how you want to switch that around. João Pedro has played 3 games, 90 minutes each game in the last 3 weeks, so weekend, and midweek. Not entirely sure whether he will feature again. Definitely got to be careful about the minutes at Chelsea. Tammy Abraham, we spoke about already. Tom Solanke looked really good in the midweek, scored a goal as well. He's probably not going to get 90 minutes because he is still coming back from a pretty long injury, but he is looking sharp in the box, guys, and if he gets a chance, he's probably going to stick it away. If you're looking again for a differentiate in the striker department, it's not a bad way to go. And Evan Nielsen also looking really sharp for Bournemouth. He's quick, he picks up the balls, a stray ball here and there, and he's always confident to shoot. So these are the picks that we have for you. And that brings us to the end of Tom Salaki looking really good in midweek, scoring as well in the European game. He's not going to get 90 minutes, but look at him as a striker that is really coming back from a long injury, but looking really sharp in the box as well. And speaking of sharp in the box, that's where you also have Evan Nielsen, the Brazilian, doing really well, picking up on stray balls, making chances out of nothing, and making sure that he can take that shot. He's got that creativity and flair, and he's got that confidence to go for it. Definitely one that we want to look at in terms of recommendations. So guys, from my side, that's all we have for this week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you get advanced notifications of the next video. Let us know in the comments what you think Spurs should do. Will they win? Will they lose? Will they actually help their rivals to win the title this year? Would love to hear your thoughts. Until then, so long for now.